Thank you for accepting me here to present you an interesting topic which has to do with bank mergers. And then that will be for 15 minutes. And then we'll spend the next 15 minutes to present you the new postgraduate programs we have in law, in commercial law in particular. Oh, sorry. Okay. Now, as you see, that's a long list, but we will not do everything. We will focus on issues up until here. Then the remaining one, it's for your own benefit. You can have a look at it at your own time. If you have questions, you can always email me. I have my email at the end. The most interesting bit is what has happened with bank mergers in the last few decades, mainly in Europe, but also we see similar mergers in the US, Japan, and elsewhere. Now, what we have seen is consolidation. Over the years, we have seen a lot of banking institutions merging, and there are several reasons why. This consolidation, also this merging of banks, also continued during the crisis that was mostly felt in Europe and US, the recent financial crisis over the last 3 years. But going back even before, global trends indicate that US, Europe, Japan are the main jurisdictions, the main countries where we've seen a lot of bank consolidation. More than 25–30% of banks in USA, they have either closed or merged in the last 3 decades. Over this 30-year period, the deposits, the customer deposits held by banks have increased from 12% to 43%. Let me see if I can use. Great. Now, what reasons can we find to explain this trend? In the US, in particular, there has been a removal of interstate barriers. And we've also seen banks, probably two decades ago, banks failing. So instead of failing, they prefer to merge in order to sustain in business. In Europe, we saw a dismantling of inter-country barriers. The European Union, which was set up in 1957, the aim of the European Union was to actually remove all barriers between member states. So trade is supposed, and it is free between member states. Companies in one member state are encouraged to trade within other member states in order to create the single market. That is the rationale behind the European Union. In Japan, structural reforms have given rise to mega mergers over the last same 30 years. In these 30 years, bank acquisitions, bank M&As accounted for 70% of all the mergers in the financial sector. So banks were the main vehicle and the main element of all financial mergers in the 90s and beginning of 2000. Now, why do banks merge? This here is a list of M&A motives, mergers and acquisition motives, that you will find across a number of sectors. If you ask two CEOs why would they like to merge the two companies, they're very likely going to give you one or more of these reasons. Now, for banks, because of the peculiar nature of banks, we'll see in a minute how these motives change. The peculiar nature of banks and why banks are different than any other company, than one supermarket buying another supermarket, is that if two supermarkets merge and the new entity, the new supermarket, cannot actually operate as good as the two previous ones could operate, worst case scenario, you cannot buy milk in the supermarket. If two banks merge and the new bank cannot operate as well as the previous one operated, then the bank may fail. The bank may go bankrupt. If one bank goes bankrupt, that may lead to a crisis in the whole system, which will lead to a systemic, what is called in the jargon, we will have a systemic crisis. One bank falling will actually take with it a number of other banks. So it's not, although the motives are the same, as we'll see, banks have slightly different motivations than any other company just because they need to sustain their liquidity, they need to sustain their health in the post-merger market. So what has been over the years the external motives for banks to merge? External motives meaning what have been the motives which were not affecting the bank internally. There were motives, changes in the market, changes in the demand for some products, a new event in the financial world which happened and necessitated a merger. Technological development. We have a lot of new features in banking today which didn't exist in the past, and quite a few of these new features are costly to create them. So banks merge to actually be able to sustain being at the forefront of technological developments because they will have more money actually to spend. As we saw in Europe and in the US, there was a financial liberalization. Financial markets were the first type of markets to be liberalized across the world. Entry and exit constraints have been removed. It's much easier now to set up a banking institution. There is a legal framework now set. There's certainty. There's legal certainty surrounding the operations of a bank, which actually gives motives for banks to merge and create bigger entities. And these bigger entities are much better equipped to deal with any of the phenomena that we face in this globalized world. Because in the past, a Korean bank would have to compete with other Korean banks. Now, a Korean bank has to compete with international banks which are active in Korea, and Korean banks are active internationally. So, to be able to compete effectively, you need bigger size. You need to be able to have bigger size to cut costs, which is the internal motives. Why would a bank, what benefit does a bank take from merging? First of all, economies of scale and cost cutting. Economies of scale, a bigger network is costing less than two smaller networks. If you run one big network of 100 branches, per branch, this costs less than running two separate networks of 50 branches. That's main economic theory which is telling us having a bigger network gives you economies of scale. So the per branch cost is less. You can cut costs. You do not, two banks or two entities in general, two companies merging, do not need to have two CEOs, do not need two boards of directors, do not need two human resources teams, may not need two buildings, two full buildings, they may need 1.5. So one big element of merging is cost cutting. For banks, if two banks merge, they do not need to have two branches in the same area. They only need one, because now customers of both branches will actually go to the one. So they will shut down the other one, and that will save them costs. They will increase the market share. What do we mean by market share in banks? All of you have a personal account somewhere. All of you have a savings account somewhere. This is the market share that your bank has of personal accounts in Korea. Same will apply to mortgages. How many mortgages banks have? How many loans to small and medium enterprises banks have? This is the market share that banks are calculating. You can have enhanced product lines. You have locked-in customers because I'm pretty sure, and tell me if I'm wrong, the first bank you started an account with, I am pretty sure that you are 8 of you in here, 9. The first branch you started an account with, out of 9, 5 of you, I bet a drink that they're still with the same bank. Has anybody changed banks? 9 out of 9? That's pretty high. I should put the bet. This is the problem. That's the problem everywhere. Korea, UK, France, US, everywhere. The bank we start our first account with, normally when we're students, that the same bank we will be having for years. Why? Because none of us bothers to go through the same process of setting up an account. Why none of us bothers? Because we have the bank to withdraw money, put some money in savings, have a credit card, do online transactions. All of this, even if there is a cost to the service, the cost is minimal. So we do not care. We value our time of changing banks at a higher price than the process of actually going there and doing it, than any of the costs the bank is putting on us. So a general phenomenon is customers of banks are locked in. They do not easily change, are captive. Which gives banks the opportunity to behave in negative ways, I will put it very politely, in negative ways for customers. Because your bank knows that it has you. You will not change. So it can increase the prices of the service. It can start charging you 1% of your deposit per year or 2% of your deposits per year just for offering you the deposit, and you will not care. So it can do it. From 2 it can go to 4%. Still, you will not care. So banks can behave in a negative way to customers because customers do not care about this kind of changes in the cost. Other motives, banks which are not active in Korea do not want to go through the process of setting up an institution here. Regulatory clearance, clearance from other authorities, getting the building, finding the place, getting the staff, too costly and too time consuming. If a bank wants to enter Korea, it's much easier to buy a Korean bank. So automatically it buys a set-up institution, an established institution. And finally, two banks merging have a much better liquidity, have much more deposits than each bank on its own. Having much more deposits in the financial world, in the interbanking loan world, means you can, as a bank, you can borrow cheaper. What does it mean in practice? Your deposits will give you 3% interest rate, for example. If you go to take a loan, you will pay for the loan 5%. If you have a bigger bank, the bank will borrow the money from another bank to give you for your loan at 1%. So the banks can borrow cheaper between each other to give you loans, and they of course get a benefit. And they can borrow cheaper because they have much more deposits. They are more stable. So this is another internal motive why banks merge. And finally, financial stability motives. We have the Basel III criteria across Europe. They're very across Europe, that is. In the US, they're equivalent. Basel II, the Basel II Accord, was actually imposing on banks the requirement that every bank has to have at least 8% of all its loans, it has to have it at any time as deposits. So if a bank has £1 million, €1 million in loans, it has to have at least 8% of this at any moment of any time as deposits in the bank. Because what the banks do, they get our deposit and then they just invest it. Because they will get our deposit, they will give us 2%, they will invest our deposits in high, I will not say high risk, I will say high risk, high return products, and they will make much more money with our deposits. That's how banks operate. That's how banks make money. So, the Basel III, which is just after the crisis, has put banks a stricter standard. So banks now, rather than 8%, have to have 10% of outstanding loans, they have to have it in deposits in the bank. That means they have less money to invest, because they have to keep more in the bank. By having a bigger bank, that means you have more liquidity. One merged entity has many more deposits, much more money in there, much more cash, compared to before. So you can meet this criterion much easier. And what does it mean if you meet the criterion? Your bank, the new bank is safer. The new bank is more stable. If a crisis hits, the bigger bank can sustain itself better than two small banks. Because it has this large capital base. Because it has a large capital base, it has an enhanced operating leverage. It has a fixed cost Any company has a fixed cost of operating. A bank has a fixed cost of operating as well. But now it can spread it over a larger revenue base because it has higher revenues. That element, which is as a result of the merger, allows the bank, again, to have better leverage. So it allows the bank to borrow cheaper. As the increase in capital base, both the fact that the bank has more deposits now and the operating leverage that it can spread the cost across a larger revenue allows the bank to borrow at lower rates. So it allows the bank to make more money, in a sense, than it could before. It reduces earnings risk. Because you have a merged entity, a merged bank has a diversified product. One product goes bust, let's say high risk, complex derivatives go bust, fail. A bigger bank, which has a better quality and variety of products, can sustain its operations by whatever revenues it makes on the remaining products. So it enhances the bank stability. Monetary policymakers, governments, most times will be the national governments here. In the EU, in the Eurozone, it's the European Central Bank, but in every other jurisdiction, it will be the National Bank, the Bank of Korea, here for example. Normally prefer banks merging than banks failing. So if there is a bank which is about to go bust, because a crisis has hit, like it happened in Europe, the bank was overexposed to loans. Now the bank cannot actually take money back from the customers to pay the loans. So the bank has low liquidity, the bank goes bust. Rather than allowing the bank to go bust, policymakers would prefer the bank to merge. Why? Because they want to save the bank. Because if one bank goes bust, there is a high risk that many others will follow. Because again, it's a systemic crisis feature that the financial world has and supermarkets don't have. So if a bank goes bust, the policymakers would prefer to do anything it takes to save the bank. In UK, when one of the banks were about to go bust, the government changed the legislation within 1 week to allow the bank to be safe. Because it realized if that bank goes bust, the whole UK financial system is in danger. So it changed the legislation it passed new legislation within 1 week, just to save the bank. And having a bigger bank allows safety, contributes to safety as a whole, and sustains credibility of the banking system. Now, what have we found regarding bank mergers and stability of the financial system? Do bank mergers contribute to stability? Consolidations have had a positive impact on growth, on deposit growth. Banks would enlarge their deposit base by moving into new markets, especially when these new markets, the new deposits from these markets, are not correlated with the old ones. So, bank merging increases deposit base. Increasing deposit base makes the bank more stable. Makes the bank able to borrow at cheaper rates. So, contributes to the profitability of the bank. When you do merge, research shows that it's better, banks prefer to merge within other institutions in new markets. Because they prefer to actually have deposits from Korea, deposits from Japan, Germany. Why? Because if there is a crisis in Germany and customers actually withdraw their deposits because there's a crisis in consumer demand, the bank can still sustain its deposit base from Korea and Japan. If all the deposits come from Germany, if a crisis hits Germany, the bank will lose the deposits because the customers will take them out. So, the deposit portfolio becomes less variable, marginal, lower cost of lending, lower interest rate that the banks pay. So we do have, so bank mergers do lead to financial stability. However, again, if we talk about us, a bigger bank is not necessarily going to treat us better. It may do, it may not. The second part of the presentation, which we will not do now, talks about why bigger banks in certain cases, do not treat us as well as the two separate banks were. And why? The main reason, because a bigger entity has more market power, it's less competitive, competition is worsened, so we're talking about markets where banks can actually behave in anti-competitive ways just because they have too much market power. That's the second bit of the presentation, which we'll not do at this time. Are there questions on bank mergers?
So more power, more money, yeah?
Yeah. M&As, bank M&As do help stability. We have to be honest, do help stability. However, if you allow bank mergers to go on without stopping any of them after a cut-off point, we are going to be worse off. Customers will be worse off. So although on the one hand, a bank merger will enhance stability of the system, on the other hand, the same merger can actually affect us negatively. Customers, us, companies which are borrowing from the bank, any customer of the bank. So you have to find the balance. How many will you allow the merger because it helps stability of the system? Or will you block the merger because it reduces the welfare of customers? So this is a balance and a trade-off which is not very easy. And this is what the remaining of the presentation actually talks about, this trade-off in a sense. But this part in general talks about why bank mergers are positive, and they are positive for the financial system. Any other question? Shall I then move on to the programs? Yeah.
방금 전에 이제 그 렉처에 관해서 이제 여기 써 있는 거에 관해서 이제 설명을 했는데 지금까지 그 렉처 이제 아까 말씀드렸던 그 안전한 은행권과 경제적인 은행권의 바람직한 균형에 관해서 이제 렉처를 들었습니다. 조금 어려운데 잘 들었겠죠. 이제 지금부터 이제 간단하게 아까 처음에 말씀드렸던 거 학교 이제 레딩대학교 그 과정에 관해서 한 10분 정도 프레젠테이션을 이어서 하도록 하겠습니다.
Thank you. Now, this presentation is about 3 new LLM programs, 3 programs in master, 3 postgraduate programs in law that we start in Reading from September. Before I go on to this, just to let you know, we already have 3 postgraduate degrees in law. One is in advanced legal studies, the other one is in international law, and the other one is in EU law. They're already running for a number of years. These ones are new, and will run from September. Now, what is unique about these programs is that we are the only university which we run these programs with the business school together. If you are, I'm not sure how many of you are interested in law. How many of you, in theory, are interested in law? Great. So you will be happy to know that in most universities, this a postgraduate degree in commercial law is mostly done by the law school. At Reading, we do it together with the business school. And I will explain the structure. That's the business school. You can see it's modern, nice. That's the law school, old Victorian building. Nice, but older than this. So it depends on which one you like. Personally, I prefer this. But this is more traditional English. And legal system is English, etc. So we may move there at some point. We'll see. Now, these programs are provided with the business school together. And they are unique because they combine modules from both schools. So students attend the law modules in the law school and then they go to the business school to attend the business modules with the business students. The students at the business school will be doing MBA, MSc in finance, and the courses they have will also be attended by our law students. I'm sure you realize, or you may already be familiar with the fact that in today's world there is nothing clearly business or law when you talk about commercial issues. If a company wants to set up in Korea, before it starts putting money on buying the building, it will have put money to get legal advice on how it can set up in Korea. So, in most commercial issues, law comes before business. So, law comes before implementation. A company may want to invest in a new product. Before it gets the investment bankers to actually come up with a proposal, it will get the lawyers to make sure that what it's about to do is legal to start with, and secondly, it will get the lawyers to come up with a contract which will safeguard the company if something goes wrong, the company not to be liable to lawsuits. So law comes first to safeguard the way business operates. That's why both law and business are really interlinked in today's world. Students can take core modules and optional modules from both schools. Each of the programs, this one for example, has a core module on Advanced Issues in International Commercial Law and a core module on International Corporate Finance and the Law. This one is being taught at the law school, this one is being taught at the business school. So students will be at the law school to do this, and then they will go to the business school to attend this with the business students. And the reason I am emphasizing the business students is because it's different to have, as a law student, as an LLM student, it's different to get a module on corporate finance with other lawyers, and it's different to get it with the business students. Because your clients are going to be these students. When these students graduate and become the CEOs or the directors of banks, etc., these are your clients. So by with the interplay between you and them, with the relationship that you and them actually start developing, and you start understanding their mentality, it helps you to actually understand your clients, your future clients. And corporate law, business, finance, they're weird topics. In my opinion, to have enough full understanding as possible, you have to do it in the place that it's being taught the best, and that's the business school. That's why we actually set it up like this. There is a project skills module which teaches students how to write a big project, and then there is a project which is like dissertation, I will call it project, over 3 months over the summer. Corporate finance, the LLM, in corporate finance there is one module on international corporate finance and the law, that's again at the law school, that's at the business school, financial markets. And again, project skills and project. For example, on this LLM, if you want to do corporate finance, it means you want to actually be involved in advising businesses how to set up, how to issue shares on a stock exchange. You will be advising businesses how to do a merger. What are the legal issues of doing a merger? You will advise your clients on how can they go to an investment bank and get a really highly risky, diversified investment product to actually make money out of the investment. If you just stick with this, as you do in most law schools, that's theory. By understanding how financial markets work, then you can realize in practice how you apply the theory into the real world. That's why we have set it up in that way, because unless students know financial markets, how can they advise companies how to access financial markets? They can't. Here you also deal with insolvency, or to put it accurately, bankruptcy of firms. If a firm goes bankrupt, what's happening? How can we avoid bankruptcy? If we cannot avoid bankruptcy, what are the legal ways to safeguard the firm from all the lawsuits that the firm will for sure receive because it's going bankrupt and cannot pay the debts? So all these issues are also discussed here. Financial regulation deals with what exactly we were discussing in the previous presentation, the financial sector. How do you regulate the financial sector so as to prevent it from failing, prevent it from having crisis, prevent it from going bust? How do you safeguard the health and the sustainability of banks, commercial banks, investment banks, hedge funds, any financial sector undertaking? And again, you have legal aspects of international financial regulation, that's being taught at the law school, and financial markets is being taught at the business school. Again, you have to understand financial markets to see exactly what are the risks that the bank faces in these markets. If you don't understand this, you cannot actually apply your knowledge. That's why it's a combined, again, LLM. As always, project skills and project. Canary Wharf, by the way. That's, hold on, that's the group. Here. And I think here, yes, Citigroup, let me see it correctly, HSBC. Nice, eh? Nice buildings. And have you heard of Lehman Brothers going bust? 2,000 years ago? Lehman Brothers, the investment bank, went bankrupt. Yeah. And that's how the whole thing started in Europe. Let me see. It's here. The building is here. And I think it's being sold now for some pounds. Because whoever buys the building is like this. And it's being sold for a few pounds. Whoever buys the building will also buy the debts of Lehman Brothers. So nobody buys the building. Nobody goes to take a debt. Some of the optional modules. A wide range of optional modules. Law school and business school. For example, this is Law School 1 at Business School. Business school, law school. Combined optional modules, students can take up to 4 or 5 depending on the credits in order to be able to actually complete the whole degree. Admissions criteria, that's the UK equivalent. It's a 3 out of 4 GPA. We can accept with 2.8 out of 4 GPA or the equivalent in Korea. Depending on the individual, on a case-by-case basis, we'll consider the application. IELTS is 7, but we will also consider lower than 7. Again, if you have a 7 and you have a 3 out of 4, automatically you're accepted. If you have under 7, 6.5 let's say, and you do not have 3 out of 4, you have 2.8, 2.7, then you're not automatically accepted. The application will come to the law school and we will make a case-by-case basis. Otherwise, if you meet these 2 criteria, the faculty automatically will accept you without even notifying us, because we are happy with you. If you do not meet either of these, then you will come to us, we'll see the CV, we'll see the references, we'll see the transcript, and then on a case by we'll assess each case on its own. You can apply online, ukpass.ac.uk. There are 10 scholarships available, £1,000 each. The fees for these degrees are £12,000. They're a bit more expensive than the other LLM we have. The other LLMs are at £10,000. These are 12 because half of the course is business, of the business school. And the business school courses cost 17 or 18,000 pounds. The MSCs. And because it's half and half, we didn't want to put it 15 as they have between 10 and 20. We have it at 12. Because we have to, it's a more expensive course to run, in a sense. Further information is here, and the other thing I didn't mention, I have, on my way to the airport, I got these USB sticks, which, they're green. I don't know if you have green USB sticks ever before. Now, on this, it says CCLFR. That stands for Center for Commercial Law and Financial Regulation. It's a new center we set up with the business school, aiming at promoting research in commercial law, for example, and also promoting relationships with law firms to give students work placements, internships, trainings. So the idea is we will be inviting law firms in the center to give talks, and we will be asking law firms to provide a 2-week work placement or a 2-month work placement for our students, our LLM students, over the summer, pursuant to certain criteria which they will have to meet. But the idea is to create links between students and law firms or corporate firms where students can actually work in the in-house legal teams. Questions? Thank you for listening.
외국대학교는 상당히 영국에서 또 다른 뭐 학교에 관한 궁금한 점 있으시면은 저희가 따로 질문 잠깐 받고 오늘 강의 나중에 프레젠테이션 끝내는 것으로 하게 되도록 하겠습니다. 혹시 뭐 대학교나 궁금하신 거 웨딩 계약서에 대해서
the city, etc.
Not only about your department, but generally.
You invest in the. Is anyone interested for Henley, for the business school, here? Yeah. If you email me, I can send you, whoever is interested, you can email me, I will send you, I have with me materials on the business school and materials on the law school, so I can send you either or both if you want. Henley Business School is one of the best business schools in the UK, offering, I think, 20 programs, MSc, master's programs in finance, investment banking. There are a lot of programs that Henley is offering. You saw the building. It has a nice building. It has a huge list of visiting professors from all over the world, which come to actually teach some of the programs. It has a big student community. I think on some of their postgraduate degrees they have roughly 200 students on some MSCs, the most popular MSCs. It has a very good name in the UK business world. If you want to actually get a job in the business or finance sector, has a very good name there. Let me show you the trading floor. It has its own trading floor, which means students who want to do, let's say, trading, it's here. That's the trading floor. It's as if you are in an investment bank trading foreign exchange or trading securities. And you have your 3 screens in front of you, and you see how prices fluctuate in different stock exchanges, and you try to arbitrage. It's as if it's simulating how you will work in an investment bank being a trader. It also has a trading dealing room. It's really, as you see, it's really high tech. Admission criteria, I think it's 6.5 for IELTS, and I would guess it's again 3 out of 4 GPA for the degree. It accepts students from business, students from finance, economics. On the LLMs, we also accept something I didn't mention before. We also accept students who have done business and they want to change and do something related to law. We also accept business and finance students. Henley, the ICMA Center, which is part of Henley, it's funded by the International Capital Markets Association in Zurich, and it's within Henley, and some of the courses are offered through ICMA, some of the courses are offered through Henley, but in a sense they are the same thing. You will apply to University of Reading, Henley Business School. Some of your courses may be done through ICMA arrangements, some of the courses may be done through Henley, but they're the same thing in a sense. Reading is 20 minutes from London. There are about 6 or 7 trains per hour. I live in London and I commute to Reading. I never have to look at the train timetable. I just go to Paddington. In the next 10 minutes after I'm there will be a train to take me to Reading. On the way back to London, I never check the time. I just go to the station. Within 3, 4, 5 minutes, there will be a train going to London. It's easily accessible to London. It's 40 minutes from Heathrow. If you like to go, I would suggest you go and visit Europe, since you'll be in Europe. Easy access to Heathrow to actually fly. It's a small city, very picturesque, has a nice river in between. What could be of interest is that Reading is the IT hub of Europe. it's the area of Europe which has the most IT companies have headquarters. We have Oracle, for example, there, a number of other IT companies. We have the European headquarters of Vodafone. So it's heavily technological oriented as an area. And if, for example, the whole city is being sustained by the IT and high technology firms and by the universities. That's the city. So it's a very student-oriented city. A lot of students around, because there are two universities there, University of Reading and Thames Valley. So a lot of students, a strong student community, different nationalities from all over the world, plus really close links to London, transport-wise, and close links to IT and, in general, highly technological companies. And I think Microsoft's headquarters, European, are also there, I think. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think they're there as well. Nice cuisine, variety of cuisine, nice bars, nice clubs. I haven't been to any of them, but I'm hearing that it's very nice. Any questions about Reading City or business school?
그러면 지금까지 대학 강의와 이제 학교 프리젠테이션 교차를까지 해주셨는데 야니스 교수님께 박수로